The foundation pit opened toward the sky like a held breath waiting to be released. Floodlights painted the concrete a pale, unfinished color, exposing every imperfection before it had the chance to disappear beneath progress. Leon stood at the edge, hard hat resting loosely in his hands, watching workers guide a slow river of wet concrete into forms that would soon be buried beneath floors, offices, conversations, and lives that would never know his name. Above ground, traffic moved without hesitation. Glass towers reflected the night like promises already fulfilled. Down here, time behaved differently. It stretched. It demanded patience. It exposed every rushed decision long before anyone else could see it. Leon preferred that honesty. The construction site sat between two finished buildings with polished lobbies and expensive lighting that remained on long after business hours, as if success required constant visibility. Their presence created quiet pressure. Investors walked through those lobbies every day, comparing this unfinished pit to the completed structures surrounding it. Here, nothing looked impressive. Rebar rose from concrete like unfinished sentences waiting for meaning. Pallets of blocks sat under heavy plastic sheets. Equipment carried dents instead of shine. Even the tool container looked deliberately unremarkable, functional, secure, invisible. Leon arrived before the crew and left after most conversations ended. Not to prove dedication. Silence made thinking easier. Fewer voices meant fewer rushed decisions disguised as collaboration. The crew did not care about his title. They watched patterns instead. He corrected mistakes without humiliation. He observed before speaking. When something failed, he pointed to the process rather than the person. Over time, workers adjusted their pace around him, slower, more deliberate, without being told to. Inside his jacket lived a small notebook. It contained no inspirational quotes, only sequences, or schedules, cure times, inspection intervals, weather buffers, supplier delays. The small numbers that determined whether a building aged quietly or collapsed loudly. In the trailer office, other managers discussed press releases, opening ceremonies, and investor walkthroughs. They spoke about visibility. Leon studied the schedule pinned to the wall. He had learned that celebration arrived late. Cost arrived early. By midweek, pressure arrived wearing courtesy. A developer toured the site in polished shoes, speaking softly about efficiency and expectations. He never demanded speed directly. Instead, he described competitors who moved faster, projects that finished ahead of schedule, opportunities lost to caution. Leon listened carefully. He nodded where acknowledgement was required. He promised nothing. After the visit, conversations shifted. The foreman discussed overtime budgets. Another manager hinted that perfection could delay everyone's bonus. Subtle phrases circulated. Good enough, industry standard, no one would notice. Later, alone in the trailer, Leon examined a cost sheet. Margins appeared stable in theory, but fragile in practice. One unexpected delay could transform success into blame. His phone vibrated. A former colleague sent photos of a new executive office. Glass walls, skyline view, public recognition. Leon stared longer than intended, not out of jealousy, but because he recognized the invisible hierarchy forming around visibility rather than structural work. A quiet thought emerged. He was responsible for the invisible half of success. Others would stand above his work during ribbon cuttings. Temptation appeared not as greed, but as permission. Small shortcuts justified by industry norms. Slightly faster cure times. materials that met minimum requirements, decisions unlikely to fail immediately. He imagined approval arriving quickly, praise replacing silence, pressure easing. He also imagined the opposite, structural weakness hiding inside success like a delayed confession. Standing near the pit, diesel fumes mixing with wet earth, he held his hard hat tightly. Workers waited for his signal to accelerate the poor schedule. He paused long enough for impatience to become visible. Then he instructed them to proceed at the required pace. 2 nights later, heavy rain arrived without drama. Persistent, quiet, unforgiving. By morning, shallow water covered sections of the pit. Pumps hummed constantly. Frustration spread through the crew like fatigue. Leon walked the perimeter slowly. He noticed subtle changes in soil color. Slight movement near a corner form. The wood looked intact but unsettled, a detail easy to ignore when deadlines demanded progress. He asked for that section to be stripped. Resistance surfaced immediately. Workers wanted momentum. Managers wanted visible advancement. The flaw seemed too small to justify delay. When the boards came off, a narrow void revealed itself. Insignificant now, catastrophic later. A weakness that future layers would conceal permanently. Leon experienced a brief internal negotiation. Protect the timeline and move forward. Patch quietly. Trust that nothing would fail within warranty periods. Then he imagined years passing. Tenants moving in. Vibrations traveling through structure. Microfractures expanding quietly beneath finished surfaces. Headlines years later questioning decisions made today. He ordered the entire section redone. No speeches, no blame, just process correction. The schedule slowed. Investor emails became sharper. Management asked for explanations framed as collaboration. Other departments released polished updates, showcasing visible progress. Leon's reports remained simple. Data, inspections, next steps. At home, his apartment reflected similar discipline. Minimal furniture, practical lighting, manuals stacked beside contracts. His phone remained face down not from rejection of technology, but from respect for attention. He tracked finances like construction materials, reserved space strategically, hidden strength prepared for pressure. Weeks passed. The foundation cured correctly. Walls rose steadily. Alignment remained precise. External observers began praising progress without knowing what had been corrected below. Leon's behavior did not change with recognition. He neither softened nor hardened. Consistency became his identity rather than performance. Months later, during a private walkthrough, investors admired marble floors and polished columns. Cameras captured smiles and speeches. Leon followed quietly behind the group, hands in his pockets, observing structural alignment rather than applause. A guest tapped a column approvingly. The sound traveled cleanly through the structure. Leon felt no urge to claim credit. The building spoke through stability rather than announcements. After the tour, he walked alone through a service corridor toward the foundation level. The door required a key few people carried. Inside, the air felt cool and unfinished. Concrete surfaces showed no beauty, only purpose. He stood in front of the corrected corner. It looked identical to every other section. Invisible success. Above him, applause echoed faintly through finished floors. Below, time continued its silent inspection. Leon left the space without touching anything. He understood now that empires were not built by dramatic moments, but by quiet refusals. Decisions made when shortcuts felt reasonable and recognition felt distant. The empire was not the building. It was the discipline that refused to compromise when no one was watching. Moral: he protected the structure no one praised, and that discipline became the empire itself. Reflective question: where are you choosing visibility today over stability tomorrow?